But I will say that there are times where I'm like, do not mistake my kindness for weakness. If you come at me, I will punch you in the face.
Nothing lasts forever, and we both know hearts can change. It's hard to hold a candle in the cold November rain, especially when you're listening to episode number 122 of the Promo Upfront podcast. I am one of your hosts, Bill Petrie. With me, as always, the raconteur of raking leaves, the captain of hot cocoa himself, the one and only mayor of Coshocton, Ohio. Not really, but he should be. Kirby Hausman. Kirby, how the hell are you?
I'm doing well. This is the time of year, as you know, that I struggle sometimes with the weather change and all that sort of thing. And I think part of it's the weather change and part of it's just that the day gets shorter, right? And like, I like there to be more daylight, but I'm doing a little better this year. I think part of that's attitude. Part of it, it's that it's honestly just been a little bit warmer. And so I love that. I'm doing pretty well, buddy. How about you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, and I know this is the weekend of the stupid biannual time change, which nobody likes. We do nothing about it. We just all complain about it. It would take a very simple act of somebody in power to do something about it, but we don't do anything about those things. I'm doing great. It's been a very hectic few days around here with Halloween and things like that, but things are going really well. Things I'd say, are going fairly easy for me. And that got me to thinking, Kirby, as things often do.
They do.
Distributors, I have a question for you. Are you a member of commonsku, Facilis, ASB, AIM, or another organization? Well, that was not a fake laugh. Well, if so, Promo Pulse has made it very easy for you to get started with AMP, their turnkey automated marketing platform. In just a couple of clicks, you can start sending beautiful email and social marketing campaigns to your clients every single week using branded product content from your preferred suppliers. Kirby, you're a commonsku distributor, and I have, hold on, I have one question for you.
Okay.
Wait a minute. I've got two questions for you. Question number one, how easy was it for you to get started with AMP? And number two, how much time and effort does it take you to post a campaign?
It was really, really easy. And it was, really, I didn't have to do anything to set up a campaign because it got set up. Once you set it up, you set it and forget it, as you've often said. Right. And one of the things I would say is, I think this time of year in particular, most salespeople I know, they have these hills and valleys of sales, right? And it's because when you get slow, you do the activity and then you get busy. So you don't do the activity and then it falls back off. And I think that one of the ways that you can fight that is to automate it so that there is consistent marketing content out there every day. And Promo Pulse, whether it be through social or email, helps people do that in a really clean and beautiful way.
They really do. And you and I, it's something you and I absolutely fervently preach and believe in, is consistency, and it absolutely helps you to create that consistency. So you're a little more level, not so many peaks and valleys. And Kirby, that was one heck of a testimonial. Now here's something else. I can't believe Noakes is doing this. He must be off the rails. Do you know that the first 30 days are FREE, free, and in any language that spells free, unless you're not using English, but it is free for the first 30 days. It's right. You can set it, forget it at no cost to you. All you need to do is email the founder and director and managing head honcho of tacos and all the things over there at Jason at the Promo Pulse. That'd be Jason Noakes. Email him at jason@promopulse.io. He'll get you started today. And if you haven't downloaded the Promo Pulse app, you really should. I understand you might have a little story about maybe in Atlantic City, how the app helped you, Kirby.
Yeah, I'm so glad I remember it, right? Yeah, so we were actually, I had one of those moments where, I was walking the show floor and I was out of practice, to be honest with you. I'm out of practice walking the show floor. So I was like, I'm going to do this. And I walked the whole Promotions East floor. And at the end of it, I actually went over and sat down to say hi to Jason. And I realized that there was a specific product that I was supposed to have looked for. And I spent the whole day and didn't look for it at all. And the show floor is about to end. or, they're closed. And so I told Jason about it. Jason opened up his Promo Pulse app, and within literally like 2 minutes, he's like, oh yeah, this supplier has it. This supplier has it. And I was just like, dude, that is incredible. And I didn't even need the whole trade show floor to do it. So that was really cool.
That amazing. So download that Promo Pulse app, and distributors, if you're members of one of those groups, go ahead and email Jason Noakes at jason@promopulse.io. He'll get you started today. All right. So this is the Promo Upfront podcast, Kirby. I have the Upfront section today. Yeah, I generally say it's an honor. Today, I'm not sure it is. So we have another promotional products professional snit to complain about today. Not necessarily complain about. I just want to use that and set the stage for a different discussion. So I don't know if you saw this on the Promotional Products Professionals Facebook page. Someone had the audacity to ask the group what it meant when a pricing code was a D. Okay.
Oh, yeah, I guess I did see that.
Okay. And so some helped. Some people said, well, here's what it means. Some people tried to educate. Say, here's where you can find resources to learn about this. And then, of course, there was a fairly large subsect that decided to treat this human like a rotisserie chicken and roast him over an open internet fire. So I get real frustrated because the anonymity that social media allows people to an extent, it gives people almost like this permission to act so jerky, like just complete asshats, quite frankly.
Yep.
People make assumptions that this person isn't trying, this person's dumb, they're new to the industry, or clearly you've been in the industry ever. How could you not know what a pricing code on a D is? I guess the question I want to ask you, and so it's not promo related, but it's a result of the promotional products discussion. How can we bring the humanity back into social media where people care? I feel like it's eroding at an increasingly accelerated pace. How do we bring that humanity back into social media, Kirby?
I'm a pretty optimistic guy, and I think that there's two answers to this, right? And the non-optimistic view is that horse is out of the barn. It's like, right. And but the reality of it is I don't want to believe that. I think for some people it is. And but I think probably if I give it more than 1 second's thought, my answer is that those of us who have respect for humanity and are kind need to be less kind to those people. One of my favorite quotes, and I don't want to misattribute it, so I don't remember who said it, but don't mistake my kindness for weakness. And I think that in those moments when people are jerks so if you don't know that, then a couple things happen, right? You are probably very new to the industry, and you're probably not associated with a larger company that would have a training program, right? So when you are new to something, you don't know what you don't know. And so a platform like PPP, the idea is that we're supposed to be trying to elevate. And I think it's interesting that the people who come off as snarky and shitty in those situations probably occasionally have a question that they would like an honest answer to, but they don't have the decency to do the same for somebody else. And so I think my answer is simply, I think I pride myself on being kind. I'm not always, I don't get that always right. But I will say that there are times where I'm like, do not mistake my kindness for weakness. If you come at me, I will punch you in the face. And I think that honestly, there is a time where some of us need to band together. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't see that. I saw that there was a little kerfuffle, but I kind of scroll by a lot of that stuff. But what I would say is in those moments, what I have found, and I'm sorry to kind of veer off, but the Promotions East post was actually kind of a good example of this. Is that a bunch of people swarmed in on when that person said that the Promotions East wasn't this and that, and people came in and were like, that's not fair, this is not this, and then that person like essentially turned off comments and went away from the
deleted the post.
Yeah because they were an asshole about it, and a bunch of people sheriffed it. We were the hockey enforcers of it, and it's weird to be both kind and candid and direct in that moment, but I think that's what it's going to take.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all. And the reason I brought this up is actually one of our loyal listeners, Teresa Danford, actually sent me a message about it, and I had already planned on talking about it.
Okay.
Um, but I don't. I think you're right. The horse is out of the barn to a certain extent, and it's very difficult to climb back up that slippery slope. It's
Right.
almost impossible. But what I'd really like to see is people start, remember when email first came out and
Mhm.
people would get mad and send emails, and then started, hey, maybe you ought to, if you're angry and you want to send an email, write it all out and then wait for at least, 24 hours, 8 hours,
Yeah.
whatever works for you.
Yep.
I'd like to see people do more of that. Sometimes I feel like when I see those posts where people are piling on, look, should someone in the industry who's been maybe in the industry 8, 10 years know what pricing code on a D is? Yeah, probably. But we all have those moments where we should know things and we forget, or I just need instant help. I'm trying to do too much. You don't know what's going on in that person's life.
Yeah.
That I think just a little try not so hard to be a comedian online
Mhm.
sometimes,
Mhm.
because it comes across as very mean spirited and it's not that funny. And the other thing, I agree with you. I think more, boy, it's hard. It's like, do two wrongs make a right?
Mhm.
Is aggressive calling out of someone for being a jerk, is that just adding to the problem, or is it actually solving the problem? And I don't actually know where I fall on that. I think it's situational. If most of the times it's just, gosh, I'm going to let that dumb comment speak for itself.
Yeah.
I'm not going to call it out because there's enough people who've seen it.
All right.
But there's other times when people are just so mean, you just want to be like, hey, you're wrong. Like, again, you brought up the post for Promotions East.
Yeah.
Guy, a lot of hot takes on very limited data,
Yeah.
and it was all inaccurate. So I
Well,
don't
and
know.
I
I
would
just would,
say that, sorry to interrupt. So I would say that one of the things that there's an art to um, candidly but kindly replying to someone
oh
who has
yeah,
been a jerk. There's several people, and I think I've seen you do it many
yeah.
times. No, I mean it in a
No, I
positive way,
know.
where you say, hey, like, I think you're out of line and here's why, and kind of thoughtfully
Yep.
respond. Charity Gibson does a really good job of this
Mhm.
in that group and in other groups I see.
Right.
And so I think that it, like, not arguing, but just saying, hey, respectfully, here are some facts based on blah, blah, blah. Or in this particular instance,
Yeah.
to say, hey, just again, I often say, Bill, we say that we should treat social media differently than real life. And I
Mhm.
always disagree with
I
that.
disagree. I 100%
I think the
disagree with
more
that.
we treat it like real life, like what you would do on the playground, right? Like
Yep.
when somebody was being picked on, you're like, hey, don't listen to that
Right.
asshole. Put your arm around him and, hey, let me help you. I think the more we do that, the more we treat it like the playground, I think the better we'll be.
100%. If you wouldn't say something directly to somebody's face,
Yes.
don't write it out. And I say this before, like I might be having a conversation about with someone, maybe you or someone else, about someone who's not there. And I know you've heard me say this. I'm not going to tell you anything I wouldn't say right to their face.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I might be complaining about that person,
Yeah.
or I might be pointing out something that
Yeah.
upset me that I've already addressed with that person by seeing the event. At 100%, I think, if you imagine that person's right there listening to you,
Yeah.
so that there are consequences. We
Yeah.
talked last week about consequences. The
Yeah.
problem with social media is there's precious little consequences.
Yeah.
The Promotions East poster, he got enough done, so he deleted it. Doesn't exist. The
Yeah.
post no longer exists. None of the
Well,
responses exist. They exist somewhere on a server, but you know what I'm saying. They
yeah.
don't exist. There's no real consequence there.
Yeah.
So I wish people would remember that. We are human beings, and we
Yeah.
all have tough exteriors, but we're all going through stuff that maybe you don't know about. And
Right.
maybe you ought to be just a little bit more kind. That would be nice. All
Do
right, Kirby.
not be a douche.
That's right. Hey, you know what? Normally, right now, I'd amp up this podcast, but I feel it's already amplified enough. So let's just go to another topic.
All
Kirby,
right.
do
All
you
right.
have one for us?
Yeah, so I just thought this was fun. I saw this
Yeah.
as a study. I don't know if it was on LinkedIn or Morning Brew or one of those places where I get stuff, but
Yep.
the headline is, it looks like everything your mom and dad told you to put down the controller down for the video games was wrong.
Okay.
You know, with the rise of esports, it's
Uh-huh.
true now that you can make a career playing video games,
Yep.
right? Like that's,
Yep.
and now this is interesting to me. A study backed by the National Institutes of Health has found that young gamers score higher on brain function tests. Like,
Hmm.
so I think, you know, they said, A, you could never do anything to make money. And B, you
Right.
know, you're going to melt your brain by doing all this stuff.
Right.
Kids who played video games for 3 or more hours per day were faster and more accurate at tasks requiring impulse control and memorization than kids that
Hmm.
didn't play video games at all. So,
Yeah.
I just thought this was super interesting. So I
Yeah.
thought, so I guess my simple question is, A, are you surprised by this? And then
Hmm.
I guess I have a follow up, but let me start there.
Yeah.
Are you surprised that the studies show this?
Not at all. Not
Mm,
at all.
mm,
Just like everything else on the planet, things cut both ways. There are
mm,
benefits and there are drawbacks, right?
mhm.
Some of the benefits of video games, I do believe, hand-eye coordination, memorization, the ability to process fast-moving information.
Yeah,
My kids played a lot of video games growing up. Of course, they're 20 now,
yeah,
but processing how to hit a baseball on in a video game, or throwing football, or whatever games they were playing, takes a lot of mental awakeness, for lack of a better term, and
yeah,
mental focus to do and do well,
yeah.
to play well. Now the drawbacks are, where is it's not as social as going out and,
Mhm.
and doing the same thing outside.
Right.
That just is. So no, it doesn't surprise me at all, and I don't think it's necessarily, I've never looked at video games as a bad thing. Hell, I still occasionally, once in a while, will throw on a video game just to relieve some stress, play a
Yeah.
little football or something like that, something I can't physically do because I'm old. I find it a great stress reliever and a great way to just kind of, detach. Like, I'll put my phone in another room and I'll play maybe a Madden game or two, and I'm totally focused in on that. And it's a really wonderful way to recharge my brain. So no, I think I have no issue. No, I think it's great and doesn't surprise me at all. And
Yeah.
your follow-up question would be?
Well, first, I just want to address, if I'm being honest, it did
Yeah.
surprise me a little bit. Um,
Okay.
just because it's been ingrained so much that our brains were going to
Hmm.
turn to jello, that when I saw that, I
Right.
was like, obviously it struck me. Now, once I read a little bit more about the study, I'm like, well, yeah, I
Yeah.
guess it does make sense because, all the stuff you said, right?
Yeah.
Focus and quick decision making and all that sort of thing. It does make sense. I guess the follow-up question or comment is this. I feel like video games are just another example of how whenever something is new, we
Hmm.
catastrophize whatever's going to happen with it, right?
Well,
Like
yeah.
literally whatever it is, it's like, oh my God, that's going to be the end of the earth. And it almost never
Well,
is.
and usually that comes from parents.
Yeah,
Parents who didn't grow up with whatever the
that
new
is. Yeah.
thing is.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times, you're a couple years younger than me, 4 or 5 years younger than me, I can't remember. But you still grew up in an era where there were big console televisions on a floor.
Sure. Yeah.
And how many times were you told by Rod, move away from that TV, it's gonna, hurt your eyes,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Because you sat too close to the TV. It didn't hurt your eyes, right? Or how many times were
It's probably just
I could,
because I was in the way. They couldn't watch the TV
right?
themselves.
Well, they were in the way, or they thought, oh my gosh, he's very close to a large tube full of electronic,
Yeah.
gamma rays. Is he going
Yeah.
to turn into the Incredible Hulk?
Which I clearly did.
Exactly. Well, clearly, but and it can be anything. Anything. It always starts with parenting. Anything parents don't want their kids to do, and I've been guilty of it. I'm sure you have. It's just part of the parenting process.
Right.
You catastrophize, to use your word. You castigate. You put a negative doubt. Hey, that's not good for you. That's in moderation. Let's down.
Yeah.
Now, same thing with phones. Now, I would have a different argument on cell phone usage,
Right.
but I do think that's a different discussion. But as far as your topic you brought up, totally on
It's
board.
interesting. Okay. Cool.
All right.
We got time
All
for
right,
another quick
Kirby.
one.
Not time for another quick one. All right. Let's go to the Chris Ruvo from ASI Wheel of Topics. Do you want
Okay.
topic 1 or topic 2 from Chris Ruvo at ASI?
I'll go to topic 1.
Topic 1, Chicago Bulls debut in merch delivery, in-seat merch delivery.
Hmm.
So fans attending games at the United Center, home of the Chicago Bulls, basketball team for the NBA, they can purchase select Bulls gear from an app. You download the app. You can pick your whatever shirt or a few things that you want. It's mostly apparel. You never miss part of the game, and they bring it right to your seat. What are your thoughts on that, Kirby?
I think it's freaking genius is what I think. Number one, I mean, anything that has to do with merch, you and I are both pro merch, right? But
Sure.
I think that this is one of those moments where it's like, by the way, on the app, there should be beer. Anything that keeps me in my seat and allows me to spend money to support your organization, it reduces friction. You talk about it all the time. I want to give credit to that. But so to me, awesome.
Yeah, I think it's amazing too. And there are usually in some stadiums, I think there are different apps. You can order food and have it delivered to you. I loved it too. I wrote these things down. The marketing that appeals to the convenience culture we are currently in. Exactly what you just said. So 100%. Another thing I think we don't pay enough attention to. All these things for convenience, which are fabulous. The one thing they all do exceptionally well is they remove you from your money. You don't have to pull out a credit card. You're not writing a check. There's no physical transaction of cash. It's all these magic numbers on a spreadsheet because your credit card's stored in the app, probably. And it's amazing, amazing, amazing marketing. And then the third is it just reinforces how people buy today. That's how people want to buy. I want my candy now. I want it easy. I mean, we have a joke in our house now. We don't call Amazon anymore. We call it Mom. We order from Mom because everything comes from Mom now.
That's funny.
But it's true. It's true. All right. And any other comments, or do we?
I think that's really good. And as a side note, we, Amy and I are members of Sam's Club, which is sort of like Costco if you're unfamiliar. And they have gas station there at the thing. And Amy recently, of course, you had a card before and you'd but now she can pay through the app. And I will tell you, that is the best. I'm more excited about spending money on gas with Sam's Club right now because it's so easy. I just like scan a QR code and it's like the end.
It's amazing. But again, it's so easy, to remove yourself from money and not realize how much you spend. So interesting stuff. All right. So we are gambling for good. Kirby, I want you to run it this week, but I'll go through the previous week's totals.
Okay.
Excuse me. So last week we both went 3-3. For those of you who are listening for the first time, we are doing a little gambling for good. We picked 6 games, not against the spread, football games each weekend, 3 college, 3 NFL, and the loser's going to donate some money to the Promotional Products Education Foundation, something that Kirby and I are both very, very passionate about. So we went 3-3 both last week. That means I have 32 victories. You are bringing in the rear at 31, Kirby, way behind me. So we've got some powerhouse matchups this week. We've got some division matchups this week. So why don't you run us through these suckers?
Okay, so we start in college, the powerhouse matchups, and I will tell you, Bill does a great job of picking these games each week. I want to give credit. These are tough. These are tough this week, and they're going to be. These are the games everybody's going to be watching, as opposed to last week, which were the games that no one was watching. I still don't know who won last week. Anyway,
I watched the A&M game.
Who won?
It wasn't good.
That's right.
Who won doesn't matter. Here's the thing: it doesn't matter who won last week's Texas A&M game because both teams had a good time. They had a good time, and I think that's really what's important. So let's move on.
I'm not sure that's true. Anyway, so we've got number 24 Texas going to number 13 Kansas State. Who you got?
I think Texas is gonna struggle this week, so I've got Kansas State, Kirby. No shtick this week. I'm just making picks.
Just making picks. I like it. All right. For me, Texas is one of those teams that has been like this all year, so I'm really struggling. So I'm only leaning toward Kansas State's at home. I'm going Kansas State.
All right.
So next up, these next 2 games are ridiculous, right? So
this is why the SEC is the best. I know you're a Big Ten guy, but the SEC football still reigns supreme.
Okay. We'll see. But I will say that this one is kind of interesting because I don't know about you, but I sort of wrote off LSU. So it's number 6 Alabama going to Death Valley at number 10 LSU. I sort of wrote LSU off at the beginning. They've certainly made a resurgence. So who you got, man?
LSU's a fraud. LSU's a fraud. Alabama's not as good as they normally are, but LSU is 100% a fraud. Brian Kelly is not not. I don't think they've won any real important games. Alabama all the way.
Yep, I'm not going to argue with you. I actually do think Brian Kelly's a good coach, but
Oh, I
it's
do
it's
too.
it's
Just
it's looked really weird this year, and so I
yeah.
struggle. Alabama's not, but Alabama has to win. And generally
Yeah.
speaking, I go with the team that absolutely has to win. So I'm going Alabama as well. All right, this is
All
the
right.
one I actually have written down picks. I haven't written one down for this one yet because I just don't know where I'm going to go.
Tough one.
It's currently number one, Tennessee, at number 3, Georgia.
Yeah.
Dude, this is a big one. This is exciting.
Big game between the hedges down in Athens. I think I have some hot opinions about both teams, which I'm going to keep to myself because I have friends at both schools. Let's just go. I think the Bulldogs absolutely destroy the Volunteers this weekend.
Okay, so
sorry, Tennessee Tim. Sorry, Tennessee Tim.
So I'll be honest. I was not a buyer in Tennessee. I picked them several times because I just didn't think they were playing against great teams. When it came out that they were ranked number 1, I actually thought that was right. And the reason I thought it was right is because I think they have had the best strength of schedule thus far. Like they've beat a lot of solid teams, including Alabama. Right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to pick with my heart instead of my head. I'm going with Tennessee on this one.
All right, I like it
because we need to have some different picks anyway. So
I like it. I like it.
Okay, cool. Now we're moving to the NFL division matchups. We've got Green Bay at Detroit.
Yeah, you throw the records out when these division foes play. That's for sure.
That's a good thing because both the records suck.
Yeah, I really like Dan Campbell as a head coach. I want him to succeed at Detroit. I also wish nothing but failure on Aaron Rodgers. He kind of annoys me for some reason. I think it's the whole long hair deal. It just looks weird on him. He looks, I don't know, not a big fan of Rodgers. So I'm going to go with the Detroit Lion.
Yeah, I want to echo every single thing you just said, except I don't care about his long hair. So I'm going Detroit. Buffalo at the New York Jets.
Yeah, you don't throw the records out when these two play. I actually kind of dig the Jets. I like their head coach, Robert Saleh, but I'm going to have to go Buffalo Billy Boy here.
Yeah, Buffalo for me too. Seattle at Arizona.
Yeah, when you talk about fraud, when you talk about frauds, I think number 1 and 1A are Cliff Kingsbury, the head coach of the Cardinals, and Kyler Murray, the quarterback of the Cardinals. So I don't like the Seattle Seahawks. I hate how they've kind of bogarted the 12th man from Texas A&M, even though Texas A&M licensed it to the Seattle Seahawks. But I'm reluctantly going to pick the coffee players up there.
Yeah, this is not an exciting pick this week because we've agreed on so much. Again, I'm with you on Arizona. I just don't buy them. So I'm going. Now, I will say one of the best stories, if this maintains, if you follow sports at all, one of the best stories of the NFL thus far is Geno Smith, the quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks. That guy was totally washed up, should be out of the league, starting for Seattle, doing really well. So kudos to him.
Absolutely. So neither one of us are buying into the Cardinals, but what we are buying, we're buying into Promo Pulse, folks, because if you're looking to, first of all, if you're a member of commonsku or Facilis or American Solutions for Business or AIM or any other organization, Promo Pulse has made it so easy for you to get started with AMP, their turnkey automated marketing platform. Just a couple of clicks, you can have these beautiful email and social marketing campaigns to your clients every week. We talk about that consistency. This is a set it and forget it situation. And it's going to drive sales. So if you want to learn more, you want to get started, those first 30 days are going to be free. A whole month free. You can't beat that. Email Jason Noakes at jason@promopulse.io, and he's going to get you started today. Now, as far as this weekend, everybody gets an extra hour. I would suggest listening to this podcast for half of that time.
Twice.